she agonized the last hours or the last few days of her life. And they both are Christians. They had stopped talking for a few years because they had argued. And what brought them back together was her finding out that her friend was laying in her deathbed. And so he goes to her, and she's telling me this past Monday. She's one of the cleaning ladies there at the city. And I'm there trying to grab my coffee, and she's in tears, and I say, my sister, did you reconcile? Did you apologize to one another? Yes. She couldn't speak, but I told her and whispered into her ear, and I asked her to forgive me. She had this tight grip when I started asking for forgiveness. So I said, okay, then we're good. And then she says, and I just got the call that she just finished passing into eternity. And I said, then we must celebrate. Be glad for her. She's no longer in pain. She said, but I don't understand why she was agonizing. And I said, it was God's mercy. Faith, so as to remove mountains, but have not love, I am nothing. If I give away all I have, and if I deliver up my body to be burned, but have not love, I gain nothing. Verse 4. Love is patient and kind. Love does not envy or boast. It is not arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice at wrongdoing, but rejoices with the truth. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Verse 8. Love never ends. As for prophecies, they will pass away. As for tongues, they will cease. As for knowledge, it will pass away. For we know in part as we prophesy in part. But when the perfect comes, and there's a reason I highlighted it, the partial will pass away. Verse 11. When I was a child, I spoke. Of these is love. So last time I was sharing with you about the topic of love and how Paul doesn't say, if you truly love someone, you will be patient and kind. Because you have love in your life, you will not envy, you will not boast, right? In verse 4. And Paul speaks of this passage and gives a person to love. You see that? Where he's not speaking about a list of things that you and I should do, because he would have written, Paul being a very, very educated man, would have written and said, you must be kind if you have love. You must not envy if you have love. You must not be rude if you have love. He doesn't say that. But instead he writes it as if love is a person. And last time I told you that if we replace the word love with God, it actually fits quite well. For example, God is patient and kind. God does not envy or boast. It is not arrogant or rude. He does not insist on his own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice on wrongdoing, but rejoices with the truth. God bears all things, believes all things, and he hopes all things, endures all things. And so we get to see that love, in the way that Paul is writing, is actually making it into a person. It's someone that we must know. Now, we touch the subject of those first verses, and then we come to this point. When the perfect comes, this is where we have to go a little deeper. Deeper than just being a nice. Because we must know Christ. We must know the author of life, the author of salvation, who is the Father, and who has sent his Son to sacrifice our sins. We must. This is not an option. And people strongly believe, when you speak out there, when you ask them if they believe in God, it's rare that we bump here in Texas, very conservative states, people will say, well, of course. It's rare that you bump into someone that says, well, I'm an atheist, right? And it's like fun. We rarely get those chances when we meet someone that's actually a full-blown atheist, right? We leave those to maybe California, maybe the East Coast, New York, Virginia, where there's full-blown people that would just say, like, why do you go to church, right? And they laugh at us. Texas, we still find, especially because its main demographic is minorities, and minorities in the history of San Antonio has been Catholicism. And so we have a lot of people that might not go to church, but they will tell you, I do believe in God. They sympathize with the idea that there is a living God. The sad thing is that you don't go to heaven for believing that there is a God. You go to heaven for trusting in his Son, Jesus Christ, and the sacrifice that he has given. You don't go to heaven for being a nice person. In fact, there was this testimony in Spanish years ago when I was a teenager, and our pastor in California put this on for us during one Wednesday night Bible study. And it was about these young men and young women that had gotten the experience of hell. And that there was this young man that they met there in hell. This is actually on YouTube in Spanish. And it's very dramatized. Leave it to the Latinos, right? To be dramatic. Very dramatized about the scenes that they saw in hell. And there is this one particular one that I related very much to, because I was living a very hypocritical life. I was one foot in the church, one foot in the world, wanting to do my own thing as a teenager, but at the same time I still love the idea of God and love the idea of church community. And God doesn't share. I hope you know that. Doesn't share. And the young men and women say that they got to the point of hell where they saw this young man, and they had across their chest like this metal plaque that did not get destroyed with lava or the fire that was there. And it would say what they were there for, right? If they were a murderer, it would say, I am a murderer. If they were a thief, if they were a liar, whatever their sin was, that the reason of why they were there. And he says that, they say that there was one that said, I am here for being a good person. Because I considered myself a good person. I considered myself. I was thinking that I'm a good person. Why wouldn't I be in heaven? And we know all the language and we know the vocabulary, but yet we still deny to live the Christian life, right? Before Adam passed away, there was this book that I was reading, and actually I was reviewing it when we were visiting, Pastor and I were visiting the hospital. And it's about God's plan. It actually reads, that's the title of it. God's will. And we all desire that. We want to know what God's will is. And the author plainly, simply puts it that once we are saved and we have become children of God, that our will has to align to the will of God. And the will of God is not to give us big homes, big trucks, big families. The will of God is to share the gospel. Because that is what he assigned to us before he went to heaven. You remember that? Matthew. He assigned to us to love the people enough, the souls enough, that he loves. He asks us to go and take the gospel to them. But he asks them to wait until the Holy Spirit comes, until the indwelling of God himself in us, that we might be empowered, for he has not given us a spirit of being a coward, but a spirit of what? Of power, of love, and self-control. That's what the book. He has given us a strong spirit to we be able to testify on his behalf, because just as Sister Avila in one of her poems wrote, I am the feet, I am the hands of Christ, I am the eyes of Christ on this earth, and he uses me according to being an instrument for his precious hands. A Catholic nun wrote this. She didn't write about Mary. She wrote about Jesus. Interesting. In 1515. And so as I was reading the book, it